Major funding for these broadcasts has been provided by grants from New York Community Bank, Capital One Bank, Eastern Consolidated, M&T Bank, Sterling National Bank, Meridian Capital Group, the Witkoff Organization, Ariel Property Advisors, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chase Mortgage Lending, Perfect Building Maintenance, Genova Burns. Additional funding has been provided by AKA Hotels Corming Communities, AmTrust Title Insurance Company, AVR Realty Company, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Bank Leumi USA, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Citizens Bank, Cohen Equities, Colliers International NYC, Collins Building Services, Connect One Bank, CPEX Real Estate Services, Dime Community Bank, Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handro Properties Handler Real Estate Organization, Hodges Ward Elliott Inc., iFunding, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Center at Syracuse University, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Madison Realty Capital, Mattone Group, Mercantile Commerce Bank, New Banks, Newmark Grubb Knight Frank, People's United Bank, Polsinelli, Rosewood Realty Services, SJP Properties, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Knackle Group at Cushman & Wakefield, the Moynihan Group, and These Friends.
Family business, transitioning of a family business, they say the first generation makes it, the second generation screws it up, and the third generation, they go out of business. But that's not the way today, especially with the two families that I have today. So today we're going to discuss the transitioning of a family business from one generation to the next. My guests include the eminent, good friend of mine, chairman of the Mattone Group, Joseph Mattone,
Thank
the
you.
patriot of the family business. His son, Michael Mattone, who is the CFO of the Mattone Group. On the other side of the team, we have Ben Levine, who's the Executive Vice President for Financing and Development at Levine Builders Douglaston Development. Next to him is his baby sister, Jessica Sherman, who is the Development Project Manager at Levine Builders and Douglaston Development. And then we have the patriot. We have Jeff Levine, who is the founder, chairman, and CEO of Douglaston Development and Levine Builders. You're both first generation in the business. Joe started more as a lawyer. You started more as a contractor architect. When you were growing up, or when you were growing up a family, did you think that you wanted to have your kids in the business?
It's something that always existed in the back of my mind. You work hard to build something, and obviously, if it's good, you would like your children to carry on.
What do you mean, if it's good?
Well, if it's good,
I mean, that's a big question.
I can tell you what I mean by if it's good. I grew up and I did not have a strong financial background. I went into a business that I loved, which was the building business on the construction side, evolving to development. And I had a passion for it. And I also have a passion for my family. And having the opportunity to have my children come into my business was always in the back of my mind. Having said that, I also thought it would be good for them to work their way into the business by their own methods. My son, who went to University of Pennsylvania, graduated, and he went to work at Credit Suisse in the real estate finance area. I don't think he's personally responsible for it, but he went there in 2006, and in 2008 they were broke. Having said that, he gained an incredible experience because you can learn just as much from what goes wrong as you can from what goes right. And after he did 2 years at Credit Suisse, he was seasoned, and I said, you know, Ben, you've got some experience. I can use some help in the business. Why don't you join me? He agreed, and for 8 years now, it's been a great experience. You fast forward to my daughter, Jessica. She not only graduated UPenn, but then decided she needed a master's from Oxford in social policy, and then decided she needed an MBA after working for 2 years at the Port Authority in a fellowship. She focused on areas such as corporate responsibility, and when she finished, after having done an internship over at Amazon in Seattle, she was offered a job. Well, I did not want my daughter or my son to leave my side, so I matched the Amazon offer because I didn't want to have to visit her in Seattle, and now she's here with us.
So now we go to the other side of the coin. Now, Mr. Mattone, you have 7 children, okay? And of the 7, you put them into 2 different businesses, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so one business, was a law business.
Right.
And from the law business, in the same way that Jeff worked in the contracting business and then became a developer on his own, the law business was one business, and then the real estate business was another business.
Yes. I was always had the aspirations to do real estate because my oldest brother, who was 20 years my senior, was the chief appraiser for the city of New York. He did most of the appraisals for Bob Moses, which was the forerunner of the urban development program, which built the Triborough Bridge and all the highways. And in that era, the program was that the federal government would reimburse 90 cents on the dollar. The state would reimburse 9 cents on the dollar, and it cost the city a penny.
But when you graduated law school, I mean, you were St. John's through and through, undergraduate and law school.
Yeah.
How you went to practice law?
Yes, I did.
So
my
now
first job was with Curlin, Campbell, and Keating, $5,000 a year.
That was too much. They overpaid.
I
you
worked
at that
well.
time.
I did law school and college in 5 years because I was tired of living off my brother. My mother had died, and I.
But how do you decide to put the kids into the or allow them to join the business?
Well, basically,
Okay.
it kind of evolved as I'm sure, in a way, it evolved in different circumstances with Jeff because basically things just kind of opened themselves up to a situation. I was able to, through a lot of effort and hard work, managed to familiarize myself with, after I left Curlin Campbell, with many banks through various efforts and relationships which I developed, and was able to try to get these accounts to represent them. And I was able to secure 12 banks who would give me closings. And that was a perfect opportunity for me to kind of practice law and at the same time give me the ability with some income to kind of invest in real estate.
When your first wife was living, how was her thoughts, and I'll ask you, to allow the kids to join the business?
Well, her methodology was that if you try to press a child into a certain course of action, they're always going to repel it. So you got to kind of encourage the generalization of education as being important for a career. Anybody can get a job, but if you want a career, you got to do education.
So in the same manner, we have another University of Pennsylvania graduate, and then you went to law school, and then you went to work, which was the benefit of all 3 of you, that all 3 of you had experience, as opposed to one might say, when you're making the mix in the chemistry doesn't always work out if you don't provide the extra couple of years of working somewhere else before. okay, be it the Port Authority, be it at a variety of others, and getting you graduate school. When you were growing up, did you always know you wanted to join your dad?
I think I went through phases where, it looked great, and then as you got a little closer to it, maybe it didn't look so great. So after law school, I went to work at a Park Avenue firm, decided that wasn't all it was cracked up to be, and came back and had a conversation.
Yeah, but you see, your dad has two different businesses. Jeff has one real estate business. I mean, it may be in development, it may be in a variety of aspects, it may be in assisted living, it may be in hospitality, but they're totally real estate. The Mattone family has two businesses. Mm-hmm. One, as your dad alluded, was the law practice business, and one was the real estate business. Did you want to get involved with the law practice business or the development business?
Let me interrupt. The first thing I did was I told him I couldn't pay him what he was making at the Park Avenue firm.
That was your first mistake.
Well, I told him the truth.
It was my first negotiation
so
with him.
We put him into the bank with his sisters in the so-called law department. And he did very well there. But as I grew into the real estate development business, and by the grace of God and Jim Mannix, God rest his soul, he was the director of Texaco, and lo and behold, Jeff,
you were able to afford to let him go into the other side.
I needed him.
So I
began to pay him a good salary.
Here's the question. How do you, okay, we're going to get back to Michael.
That's all right.
Okay, when you were growing up, did you have aspirations to get involved with your dad's business?
No, I think that in our family, for me and my sister both, that it was something that was always in our veins. I think there are pictures of me when I'm a year and a half old with a hard hat on a construction site in Long Beach with my father and my grandfather. Growing up as a kid working on construction sites for summers, when I went to Penn, deciding that I wanted my major to be urban studies instead of philosophy, politics, and economics, because I was able to write my thesis about the development of condominiums in Center City, Philadelphia, as a result of tax abatements. All of the internships and experiences and jobs that I had ended up going towards real estate because it was something I was passionate about. It was something that I understood, and it was something that I had the benefit of being around my entire life. I mean, my dad jokes that when he was a kid, he would have to break into construction sites because he had such a passion for it, and he wanted to see how they were building buildings. And in our family, we were begging him to leave the construction site so we could make a Knicks playoff game in the 90s. So it was two very different paths to the same passion.
Which we'll get to because another point. What about you, Jessica?
I would agree with what Ben said. I think for us growing up around the kitchen table, we were always talking about real estate. We were always stopping at different sites. And the decision to join the company for me was really threefold. First, it was important to me that there was a need. And when Ben and I both joined, there were particular needs that my dad had within the company that we had the skill sets to fill. Second is the passion, as Ben mentioned, whether it was condos or for me, economic development. We both were passionate about a portion of the business that meant we could really build careers there that would maybe be similar to the careers we would want to build elsewhere. And the third is the respect and the trust. I think for us, it was an easy choice to join our family business because we respect everything our father has done. We respect each other, and we really value the strong relationships our family has, and to be able to work where you're needed on what you're passionate about with the people that you care about is kind of the dream, which is how we wound up here.
That's wonderful.
Michael, how is it to work with your father?
No, I think it's great. I think
I'll tell the truth.
No, okay. No, I always describe my work life as seamless. So we could be sitting around the conference room table talking about whose birthday party it is this weekend, or we could be sitting at that birthday party talking about pro formas and rent and stuff like that. So you're never really away from it. It's constant. It's a constant part of your life.
Prior to the show, I had mentioned that I have a dear friend whose role when he was in public accounting was really taking the responsibility of coaching the family members of how to get along and to develop so the transition is done. Have you done that?
I think that what I have done in cooperation with my wife is to raise very good children. And when you deal, it's the same rule in business. When you're dealing with good people, good things happen. And when you're dealing with good children, great things happen. So we're blessed to have a very strong family unit. My other daughter, Dara, is not here with us today because she is pursuing her own passion, which is teaching. And we're very happy because she loves what she's doing. This was not for her, and this is not what she wished to do. But both of them are here because they want it, and I appreciate that, and I look forward. You asked me when we spoke before, what's my role? And I said, well, I'm striving to be a figurehead. I would love to continue to impart whatever knowledge I possess to both of them so that they can operate the business in much the same way I have. I believe that the most important aspects of what made me successful, I have already conveyed to them through our family life, which is that they are with great integrity, they have good character, and they work hard. And that's all I can ask for.
So here's the question for both families. How do you transition a family business to the next generation?
Well, I tell you how I did it. I divided the certain amount of properties we had. I divided it chronologically because things didn't happen just because there was an event. It took years and years to accumulate a great deal of wealth. And I don't think I'm blowing my horn by telling you that. What I did was I took it upon myself to say, what's the fair thing to do, Jeff? And no, I didn't consult anybody else because nobody else would know as much as I did about how things are done. I treated all the kids as fairly as I could. The ones that were going to be in the business and the ones who went into their own life. My oldest daughter married well. She wouldn't want to be in the business, okay? So that's less of a percentage. Francesca wanted to be a doctor, married to a very well-earning doctor who's the, chairman of the ophthalmology department at Northwestern. You know, it's a big hospital, lots of money. I kept these things in my own way of percentages.
But what happens if you have Francesca or the other children have grandchildren? Okay, you're a couple of years older than my friend Mr. Levine. Would you see the possibility of the third generation now going into the business?
So we have 27 grandchildren, so there is a very high
exactly
likelihood that...
What do you mean we?
Right.
The family.
The family.
Because he handles the money.
Okay.
He's speaking properly with me.
I'm not going to ask if you know all those 27.
Yes.
He does.
7 kids, but the
We
27
tested him. We
grandkids.
No,
did
but
the life
quite
story.
seriously, what I was trying to say, Ben, was that what I did was initially I created time zones as to what should be distributed on an equal basis and what they brought to the business to make it even richer. And therefore, they should enjoy a greater participation than those who weren't in the business.
But getting back to my point, to both of
That's the
you,
way I felt. Jeff.
would you see the third generation go into the business? Okay?
Why not? Why not? If they found it as an acceptable mechanism to have them, their children participate.
No, I'm talking about their children and their nephews and nieces.
So I had a conversation with my son Nick, who's a senior in high school, and he came to me at one point and he said, Dad, I can't wait to come and work at the Mattone group. And so like your chest swells and you get very proud, and the phrase was still out there, and he said, and sell it. And I said, whoa. I said, time out. Your grandfather doesn't want to hear that. So
No, you bring up an interesting point. Scott Reckler, a number of years ago when I did his live story, said his son, who was probably 14, said to him, "How come you sold the company? One day I might have wanted to be in the business." And that is something that people will say. Yes, Ben.
I think just to talk about our family, and we're obviously a second-generation family, and we're both relatively new to the industry. My dad jokes that he's an aspiring figurehead, and I think that we're very thankful that he isn't a figurehead because there's a lot that we have to learn. I think that while my sister and I have both kind of identified our interests and the things that we think that we're going to be the best for the company and for our company's growth, every day it's a privilege to be able to come to work with our dad, and putting aside how assets are divided up and things like that, because that's not really what it's all about. It's about our business and our family's legacy.
We're very close to the source. So we're lucky in that my dad built this business from the ground up, and he knows everything it took to build this business, and he goes out of his way to make sure that we're in the HR meetings and we're in whatever it is that we need to be in to understand what it takes, not just to do the jobs we do every day, which are very important, but to do the jobs that one day we'll hopefully have the privilege of doing, which is running the company together. So that to us has been a really great resource.
That's a very good observation, because they have been taught through me how important it is to be politically active, which is what the Mattones are very well known for, both in charity, philanthropic, and any source of community involvement. Believe me when I tell you that. We are millions of dollars into charities of all kinds.
Which I could say is a
And it has
similarity
come
in the
back
younger
like bread
generation
on the
of
water,
the Levine
believe me.
family,
And
too.
so I'm not putting down Jeff by any means. He knows what I'm talking about.
Well,
But fortunately, we're involved in many good things together.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
one thing-
And your dad is going to take this as a compliment, what he should. He had conducted some events with that big real estate brokerage, and the conversation was coming on about some conversation he had with somebody who had sold him property at one time, and the guy was telling Jeff about this amount of money this jerk paid to the guy who he had sold the property to. In other words, the fellow who was observing that, he couldn't believe the amount of money he got. And Jeff said to him, how could he afford to pay that? How's he going to do it? He says, don't worry. It's going to come back to the original owner. And isn't that the truth, Jeff?
Absolutely.
Overpay, and that's what happens.
So what do you see the most difficult things in having family working for you, if there are difficult things? Because they always, nothing is always wonderful, okay? In your own marriages, everything's up and...
I think it creates a different dynamic, as you spoke about earlier. The conference room, the dinner table, everywhere we are, we're talking about business. And it's an integral part of our lives. And I think that there's a balance that we need to strike, because sometimes, my mom, who's as important in the development of the business as my father is, and I'm sure that he would agree, and she did an unbelievable job with our family.
But you know what's interesting about your family? Because your father brought into the business, into his own business, his own brother-in-law. Have you had brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws in the business, Joe?
No, not really. No. Michael. Well, Michael, why don't you speak up and tell the truth about me? Come on, you're too quiet. I'm concerned about what you'll say alone.
You're doing great.
No, come on.
No, I think your question was of the difficulties, and I think one of the difficulties is just having clearly defined roles, who does what, and I think sometimes there's a little bit of overlap, there's a little bit of a clash, and I think the way that you solve that problem is just keep everybody busy. When everybody's busy, they're too busy to worry about what everybody else is working on, and it works smoothly in that sense.
Now, here's a question. Since both of you are involved in the real estate business, you have friends and peers who are trying to do this also. How do you see them transitioning their family? Because, people say they're the real estate families of New York. Some of them work out well, and then you see about the divorces, actual divorces in the business and so on.
I'll tell you, in a weird way, I find that it's almost like a fraternity, because there are a group of peers who I have who are in different, size family real estate businesses. Some are a lot bigger than us, and some are a lot smaller. But we all go through similar challenges on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and we have open communications. And I have friends in the business who I might not see very often, but we sit down and we open up. And it could actually be someone who I just met recently, but we have so many shared experiences being in family businesses that we feel comfortable and we're able to open up. And it's really a great resource to learn and get feedback from people in similar positions.
So here's a question for both Jessica and for Michael. Both of you are married. How do your respective spouses feel about you being in a family business?
It's interesting for me because my husband also works in real estate, so I get the added benefit of not just spending my, time with my siblings and my parents talking about real estate, but also doing it at home. And he's been really supportive. He also has a very close relationship with my brother and my dad, so he loves hearing about what we're doing and giving his opinion, and is excited about
She picked a winner.
all of that. So.
Michael?
My wife has not anything to do with real estate. She's a former district attorney from Brooklyn, so the only person she prosecutes these days, retired, so the only person she prosecutes these days is myself.
You're going to regret having said that.
And I got to tell you that, having her husband Evan in the fold is nice, because it's almost like sometimes he brings, he's obviously closer to our age than my father's, but I guess he's younger than me, but he often brings new ideas and, bounce, oh, well, I was in a meeting.
So now going in the same concept that I said before, that your father brought his brother-in-law in the business, do you see, if there's a need or if there's an opportunity, the possibility of having your son-in-law in the business?
You don't know which direction life goes in.
That's true.
Obviously,
That's why I said if
I
there's
would
a
not
need-
hold it against any future employee if they were related to me by blood or by marriage.
But wait a second. In addition to that, you have your nephew. I mean,
I have
literally,
a nephew. I have multiple cousins. Listen, it's a mitzvah, as we say in the old country, to give somebody a job.
Opportunities, yeah.
It's a double mitzvah if they're good at it. So if I have family members or friends who are capable, it's my privilege to allow them and to have them work with me. But when it comes to having family in the business, I will tell you this. My wife Randy and I strongly believe the philosophy that you can only be as happy as a parent as your least happy child. So having my children in my business working with me, if they were not happy, I would not accept. So it's my job to make sure they're happy.
So
I think that's a very fine philosophy, both as a businessman and as a father. Believe me, that's a wonderful attitude.
So in summation, as you both are second generation in a family business, nothing is guaranteed in life. But the tea leaves on my crystal ball, which I don't have with me, I'm sorry, it's in the other room over there, say to me that it's relatively shiny. And even though statistically it doesn't always work out, but I believe that both the Mattones and the Levine families, who are friends in business, charity, and in life, will see the continuation and the growth of your family business. I'd like to thank Joe, the Patriot, Michael, Ben, Jessica, and Jeffrey, and I'll see you next week.